Hello to all our Little Panthers and Little Panther parents and family members. I'm Mrs. Muth, and I'm the literacy coach and lead intervention teacher at South Elementary School. And today I am here to share with you some tips on how to help your child to improve their reading fluency. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with a little presentation for you on how to improve your child's reading fluency. So let's start with, what is reading fluency? So reading fluency is the ability to read quickly and accurately and with expression. So when a child is reading fluently, we're seeing all three of those in combination. Reading quickly, accurately, meaning the words are read correctly, and with good expression, kind of like sounding like we speak. So why is reading fluency important? Well, the importance of reading fluency comes down to the improvement of our understanding and our comprehension when we're reading. So if you think of it this way, we have a kind of capped amount of cognitive power, of brain power, when we're reading. And as we're reading words and we're decoding words, if we're spending a little less time on the decoding part of the work and a little more time on the comprehension and the understanding of what we're reading, then we actually end up with better understanding. So our building that reading fluency really helps us to improve our understanding or our comprehension of what we read. So a child that struggles with reading fluency might show that in a couple of different ways. First, they might read every word like this. I always tell the kids that kind of sounds like they're reading like a robot. We really don't speak like that, and it's very difficult to understand what someone is saying if they are speaking like that. So reading like that is also makes it more difficult to understand what we've read. Sometimes you might hear a child sound, out, word. So we would call that kind of like stumbling over our words, or taking a long time to figure out what each word says, and then we kind of lose the meaning of what we've read when we're doing that. And then another thing that we might see with a child that's struggling with reading fluency, you might initially think that their reading fluency is really strong, but if they're reading like this without taking a breath, and they're just getting every word out and spitting every word out as fast as they can, then that actually takes away from their reading fluency as well, from that understanding of what they've read. So if you're not paying much attention to the actual parts of the sentence and what you're reading, then you don't have that understanding either. So reading hesitantly, stumbling over most of the words when you're reading, and reading without expression, those all affect the understanding. And that's our number one thing that we want to have when we have read a piece of text. We want to understand what we read. So all of those things add to that. All right, so I've got 5 ways to improve reading fluency. And real quickly, those 5 ways are listening and following along with auto recordings, echo reading, paired reading, choral reading, and repeated reading. So we're going to go through all 5 of those real quickly. So first of all, listening and following along with audio recordings. This is really great if the students are really attending to what is being read. Just listening to it like it's a song on the stereo or a YouTube video, it can be helpful as well because you're hearing a model of fluent reading. But if you are following along, if the child has either the book that is being read, or if they have it on a digital format like on a tablet or a laptop, and they're following along with the words as they're being read, that's what really helps to build their reading fluency. So ways you can do this: if you have books on CD, that's a really great way for the child to have the book in front of them and listen to the CD as it's being read. You can also achieve that if you have the book in front of you, and let's say I want my daughter to work on her fluency with "Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus." I might find someone reading Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus on YouTube, or like Storybook Online, where they have famous people that read the stories to you, and then they can follow along and read the story as the other person is reading it to them. So that's one way. You can use computer programs. There are apps and online services for Epic and Rivet. Rivet is really nice in that they have a couple of different services within their program where you can touch on the words and it'll read it to you if you come to a word that you've tried to decode and you still can't decode it. And also it has a little microphone that you can touch and it'll listen to you read, and it'll give you kind of a little feedback when you read the word correctly, like it does like a little star or a little heart or something like that, so that you can see that you've read the word correctly. So those are kind of nice for reading fluency. And they also can read the story to you. And then Audible has books that they can read aloud and look at the book and listen. They can listen to while it's being read aloud. Prime Reading has a lot of that type of stuff as well. And then there's also a free service from our public library called Overdrive. So you can look into that on our public library website. Okay, so the next way is called echo reading. So for this strategy, the parents read a sentence as the child is touching each word. So the child is what we call tracking and touching each word while the parent is reading. Then the child echoes the same sentence while touching each word again. So if I'm reading with my daughter, "Don't let the pigeon drive the bus," then I would say, first, I will read a sentence and then you read it just like me. And so I would say, "Hey, can I drive the bus?" And my daughter would be touching each word as I read it. And then she would do exactly the same thing, but touching it herself and reading it herself. "Hey, can I drive the bus?" So making sure that her eyes are looking at it while she's reading is really important. She or he, if you have a son. Okay, and then paired reading is another way. This is similar to the echo reading where the parent and the child are taking turns, but instead of echoing, they're doing different sentences. So if, again, going back to "Don't let the pigeon drive the bus," if I would say, I will read a sentence and then you read the next sentence. So I would say, "I'll be careful," and then we turn the page and then it'd be her turn. "I tell you what, I'll just steer." So you're taking turns. And that kind of shares the load of what's being read, but the child is still hearing the story and looking and seeing the reading fluency as you're both reading, okay? And then the next one is choral reading. So after reading it a few different times, like let's say you did echo reading with a short story or a poem, then you did the paired reading where you took turns, each reading a sentence through the story, and then you'd say, "Let's read this page together," and you try to make your voice sound just like mine as we read. Okay, so then that's really helping the child to practice having the expression of a fluent reader. If they're trying to match their voice to yours as they're reading, they're looking at the words, they're saying the words correctly, and they're trying to show that expression while they read. So that's how the choral reading is really helpful. And I think choral, like chorus in a choir, you have a chorus, so everybody's doing it together. So that one is really helpful after you've read the passage a few times. And then the last one, again, this one actually goes along with some of the others. You can use this strategy, repeated readings, with all of the above strategies. So if you choose one book for the week or for a couple of different books for the week, and you use all of the different strategies throughout the week, that's repeated reading. So when you're reading the same thing over and over again, that's what we would consider repeated reading. And with repeated reading, you can time your child as they read for like 1 minute or maybe 2 minutes, and you can graph to see how many words they read during that time and help them to grow that reading fluency. Of course, that would be more effective for like a later first grade student and up, second grade, third grade, and beyond. Maybe your kindergarten students, if they are if they are really blossoming as a reader, it might be effective for them. But you definitely want to save that one for a student that is already considered somewhat of a beginning reader, that they're reading some text on their own. So that one is a really great strategy to use. Okay, so what should we read to help build that fluency? Well, I put a couple of cover pictures from a couple of different resources. Nursery rhyme books that have a collection of classic nursery rhymes are fabulous. Especially some of those nursery rhymes that they might not already know. Learning a new nursery rhyme and just practicing reading it and making sure to pay attention to the text when they're reading and not just to sing it like a song, because really connecting what you're saying to what you're looking at is the strong piece of reading fluency that we really need. And then classic poetry books. This is the one that I had when I was a little girl and actually still have. There's so many great poems that are just classic poems that children love. Where the Sidewalk Ends from Shel Silverstein, or any of his other books or books of poetry. Kids just love reading these poems. And some of them are really, really short and really easy to build fluency with. And then there are some newer authors like Alan Katz, who he has several books that have just silly rhymes and silly poems and rhymes in them, and the kids just love it. They're so fun. They really think it's funny to read, and it's kind of a motivating way to engage them in reading and building that fluency. You can also build fluency with decodable readers, which you may have gotten from your classroom teacher to use it during homework time throughout the year, and as we've been home doing our learning at home. And then, of course, your favorite books. Obviously, at our house, the Pigeon books are favorites. The Giving Tree, Green Eggs and Ham, all the Dr. Seuss. There's so many Dr. Seuss books that are fun for kids to just read over and over again. Llama Llama, Red Pajama, Pete the Cat, and some of the classics like Goodnight Moon. But having a short story that isn't too long and involved, that you would want to read again and again and practice in different ways, those can really help you to build that reading fluency with your kiddos. So I hope you guys enjoyed this information, that you can find some extra ways to help your child to build their reading fluency. And as always, if you have any questions or you would like any more information from me, please don't hesitate to call or send me an email and reach out, and I am happy to help in any way that I can. So have a great day, and we'll see you soon.